can be in her purse. Oh, God. Alex says it could be in her purse, this cute dolphin. Greta says, I do. Ungoliant is so very interesting. She is very interesting. Anyway. And terrifying, and as and all spiders should die. Anyway. So Ase comes back into the fold with no water spiders. Ugh. Spiders that can swim are not right. There are actually spiders that can swim. I know there's that one that can like bring pockets of air down underneath the water and put it up in its web. It's pretty terrifying. Yeah, it's pretty gross. So, all right. So, octopus with arthritis. Okay, any animal that can open a jar and then climb inside is not okay in my book. That's something that an octopus can do. That, regardless. Anyway, so Ase is brought back into the fold, and with no apparent repercussions, which Myron thinks is quite maddening. I want to find a way to draw Aule's suspicion to Melkor, and I'm having trouble connecting the dots to get there. So feel free to jump in with this, guys. But I'd like to have a conversation between Myron and Melkor again. I want to take a look and see if the notes said anything about that, but I don't think they do. Yeah, I don't think they do at all. Because, let me check the following one real quick. Karita says, everyone knows he isn't really evil. If we're going to give Melkor chance after chance, Ase will be welcomed back with open arms. Yeah, no, I agree with you. Alex says, I think Melkor should be playing Puppet Master this whole episode. Again, I agree. And yes, Ase is going to be welcomed back with no apparent repercussions. This is going to make Myron nuts, though. Like, even though, like, I don't think the audience is going to think it's weird, but I think that we're going to show Myron aggravated by this. Alex says that Melkor is controlling characters off stage. Yeah. Okay. Season 12, episode 10. Okay, yeah, there's more of this. It's okay for Melkor to look suspicious now. We're 10 episodes in. Yes. Okay. Everything's breaking. Melkor responds with Machiavellian strategy. Unin finds Ase. She fights him, subdues him. Alex says, wasn't there something about a volcano exploding? Yes, that was back towards the beginning, because that's basically how Melkor got Ase's attention. Oh, I see what you're saying. But what I'm saying is I want there to be some link between, like, how do we get that into Owley's mind? Like, how does Owley know? How does Owley start to suspect that Melkor was goading Ase? Like, does Ase tell him? Okay. It says in the notes, cut to Owley and Olmo having another talk after it's all done. Ase has repented, and Ase tells Owley that Melkor's bad news. So they're suggesting that that Ase specifically tells Owley and Olmo together that remind me why. Korea says Elmo is very ready to believe bad things about Melkor. Alex says, remind me why Owley and Ase need to be connected. Where does this need to lead? We need to get. I want to remind the audience that Owley's suspicion of Melkor has to do with his creation of the dwarves. Because what I'd like to end this episode with, to lead into the next episode, is to end this episode with Owley going into his private workshop, where we see a short, faceless stone statue, and he just stands there staring at it. That's where I'd like to end the episode, because it sets us up for the creation of the dwarves, which is about to happen in the next episode. And if we can connect this situation, if we connect Ase's fall back to Melkor, then that's kind of going to give that scene a little bit more weight to it. Does that make sense? If Ase says in front of Olmo and Owley that, if Olmo is basically like, what, Alex says we should use Olmo, a natural connector of these two characters who's already suspicious of Melkor. Okay, so maybe we don't have to see Ase fessing up to this situation. Maybe Olmo just tells Owley, I was talking with Ase, and I think that Melkor had something to do with all this. I know that he was talking to him. And right, Alex says that Elmo's briefing Owley on the resolved situation. Yeah. And maybe he doesn't give him all the info. Okay, how about this? Olmo is giving... Karita says, I like this. We don't need every single discussion on screen. Yeah. So, Olmo is briefing Owley on this. Myron is there. So he just hears these apparently baseless accusations that Olmo is making against Melkor. He sees Owley apparently willing to believe them. Owley, who is now turning back on his friend Melkor, because they were working together to build the lamp. Everybody was working together to build the lamps, remember? So, it seems to Myron that Owley has completely turned his back on Melkor. And maybe we have Myron go back to visit Autumno. No, I don't want that. Maybe Melkor is standing on the top of the cliffs, and Myron goes and talks to him again. And he is... he doesn't understand. Alex says Ulmo will need to go to Alley anyway, since the destruction of the shoreline is what sparked the beginning of the episode. Bookends. Yeah, I agree. That kind of closes out that, because basically what we're doing is we're setting up these, these situations where this is opened here, this is open, this is open, this is resolved, this is resolved, this is resolved. So, and now we resolve the whole thing between Myron and Melkor, and Melkor is standing on the cliffs. Krita says, for Ulmo, just the fact that Melkor was the Discord maker was talking to Ase right before he rebelled is enough. Myron is not that ready to condemn him. Yeah, not as ready to condemn him. Yes. So Myron goes to him and is like, I don't understand it. Ase was doing all this stuff. They didn't do anything about it. They just let him come back in like nothing was wrong. And yet they're still trying to blame everything on you. I don't get it. And this is... hang on. Okay. It doesn't really... The notes don't really say anything about this. Okay. So what is Melkor's response to that, do you think? Alex says, remind me what's Ali's specific reason for creating the dwarves is, what his reason for creating the dwarves is beyond to fight against Melkor. Oh, there's a million reasons. He creates them because he wants people to teach, for him to teach craft too. He's impatient for the creation of the children of Iluvatar, because the children of Iluvatar are something, they are like a facet of Iluvatar's mind that the Ainur are not privy to. It's something outside themselves that, and it's really about their love for Iluvatar that the Ainur are so excited about the creation of the children. Yeah, because in getting to know the children better, they get to know Iluvatar better. So there's that, and Ale is impatient for that to take place. But he also wants children, students, in a way. Alex is right, but if Melkor is the straw that breaks the camel's back, then what about Melkor does Ale want to fight with the dwarves? What's happening here is Ale is seeing that Melkor is doing a lot of things to kind of dismantle the Valar. Melkor, I'm not Ale, Melkor, if I said that wrong, I feel like I did. Melkor is doing a lot of things to destabilize the Valar. And Ale can see, and there's force being applied, and it's escalating. Eventually, somebody's going to get hurt. And Ale, in reality, it's kind of almost... he's making excuses for it, but it's doubt in Iluvatar's plan. There's a lot of conjecture that can be made. Like, for example, like you could say that, well, maybe he's afraid that if the children appear and they're not ready to take on Melkor, then they're going to be slaughtered out of hand, and they're not. And so he's making the dwarves, who are tough to endure, and they are they're resistant against domination. Which is why Sauron can't ever seem to figure out how to deal with them. Does that kind of answer your question a little bit? Because there's no question that part of the reason why he makes them has to do with Melkor. And I'm not saying that we have him starting to make them because of this event. I'm just saying that it's part of his thought process. And I just want to link this scenario into the next episode where we're actually going to see him making them. Okay. Alex says, so narratively, Ulmo needs to emphasize Melkor's blank to Aule in their conversation. That's a good question. Okay. What is the blank? I got you. All right. I see what you're saying. So, twistiness. Corruption. His corruptive influence. That's it. He needs to emphasize that Melkor is becoming a corruptive influence on anyone he can come in contact with. And what the crazy thing about this whole thing is that it's happening to Aule's right-hand guy right under his nose. He doesn't even know about it. But that's why he makes the dwarves so resistant to domination and to not necessarily to corruption, because they have their own corruptive problems. But Melkor is not going to be able to dominate them, and they're in a way it's difficult to put one over on them because they're so suspicious of everybody. I mean, think about dwarves and how many people a dwarf is willing to trust. Your average dwarf probably trusts 2 people, themselves and their bearded mom. So, I think that does that go where you're looking to go? Alex says, to sound like my script writing professor, how do we physicalize this? Okay. You're going to have to kind of expound upon that to my layman's brain, because I'm not sure I follow what that means. Krita says, tell us more. I mean, because it sounds to me like you're asking me, how do we make this real? How do we make this a thing? And I feel that can be done through Ulmo, insisting that Melkor has been a corruptive influence on everybody. He came in with these Balrogs who were 100% totally devoted to him, and then there were a bunch of the Maiar who wound up leaving with him to go to Autumno, who didn't go with the Valar to Valinor. Now it's happened with Alce. Krita says Ulmo might be trying to get across the idea that Melkor is actively trying to lead people astray, that he's not just misunderstood. Yeah. Okay. We'll come back to that. Myron's meeting with Melkor, though, the final meeting there, I think that it has to be about... Oh, okay. Alex says, example, John Doe in movie X is having a crisis of conscience. The visual the visualization, maybe, of, or then visualize an internal non-physical struggle. We make him physically sick. The physical sickness parallels his mental struggle. Okay. I'm not sure I follow. I get what you're saying. I understand what you're saying there. I'm not sure exactly who are we trying to create this physicalization in. Because this conversation, Omo, Aule, Myron, this 3-person, not 3-person conversation. It's a 2-person conversation taking place in front of Myron. Are you talking about Myron's? Okay. The dwarves in a TV show can't just be anti-corruption. They need to be something more material. They're stone. They're not anti-corruption. They're resistant to domination. And the fact that they are, for all intents and purposes, animated stone golems, in a way, is kind of indicative of that. But I don't think that's what you're trying to. I really don't think that's what you're trying to get at here, because we're not seeing dwarves here. We will in the next episode. We're not seeing them here. Right. So we need to connect the dots. Fire doesn't melt